I am talking to Sarah Leete, a singer-songwriter from the Narrabri region in New South Wales, whose latest single is called Used. Sarah, lovely to see you.
Hi, lovely to see you too.
Also, I should say, creator of two of my favourite songs from last year, which was One That Got Away and Nothing Special, but we'll talk about those. I thought because you have released these new singles first in a little while, you had an EP out in 2017, some people may be discovering you for the first time. So it'd be lovely to hear about how you came to music, how you started singing, how you started songwriting, how you started playing an instrument.
Sure. So this all starts back when I was a child. And I kind of grew up listening to music. I'm not from a musical household, didn't come out of the womb holding a guitar like everyone else does. I just was a real fan first and foremost. And then once I had kind of got to a point, I think at high school is when people start doing things like songwriting and all that kind of stuff. You're going through some stuff. It's really hard at 13. I liked a boy and he played guitar and I thought I could play guitar because by then I was kind of already singing. I was obnoxiously singing and everyone hated it. I don't think I was necessarily bad either. I think I just did a lot of it. So I kind of started playing guitar. It was really hard and I wanted to play the songs that I heard on the radio, but my talent wasn't quite there yet. So I decided it was just easier to make them up. And that's really where my songwriting career started. Then I kind of, once I'd got through high school, I was really kind of torn between my two passions, so music and also agriculture. Mm-hmm. And I decided that agriculture was a lot better career choice, maybe just a bit more financially stable. Back then, in the late 2000s, it was really kind of still very difficult, I think, to have a career in music. Like, I kind of thought you had to get signed by a label and that was the only way to do it. I didn't really understand it. So moved out to the country and worked on a farm, and that's not very far from where I am now. I live in a little town called Baan Baa, as you mentioned, and I met my husband at the Baan Baa pub one night, New Year's Eve. I've stuck around here ever since. I love it. I'm originally from the Central Coast, so it was a little bit of a tree change, but that's how I'm here.
Or the Costa Centrale, as I like to call it sometimes. Yes. So given that you met your husband in the Baan Baa pub, what is the population of Baan Baa, just so we can get a feeling for the context of the likelihood of the meeting?
I think it's 88. I think that's how many people live here, and it is the best. Like, apart from that, everybody knows your business, and if you didn't put your bins out, mm-hmm. It's just such a really beautiful community. And he is originally from, I think he's like born over near Tamworth, but he's like, family lived here and stuff, and he was working on the house that we live in now, and I, turned up and I was helping him move buckets of water. And anyway, if you're from here, you'd understand because everyone knows everyone. But yeah, it was a really kind of, I was waiting for my Prince Charming and he just turned up in a white F truck and not on a white horse. So.
Well, that's a great story. So then, having chosen the agricultural life and moved to this town, you did find your way back to music though. So I know, I think there are about 6 songs on that EP that you made in 2017. So you obviously were writing and thinking about recording ahead of that. It is hard to know, I would imagine, how to get into the music industry, whether it's trying to go for a label or not. So how did you start to learn all of that?
I just tried and failed, really. So I have been writing songs for all through college. I went to ag college as well, which is a transition from the Central Coast to here. It was a bit easier. But I was writing songs. I was in a little duo for a while when I was kind of still on the Central Coast, I guess. And it was only just open mic nights. It wasn't anything really fancy. And then I had kind of, funnily enough, started my own business after I'd worked on a farm. I was a personal trainer for a good couple of years and burnt myself out beyond recognition. Turns out late nights and early mornings don't mix. but I'd kind of found some confidence in myself and had a bit of money for the first time in my adult life, and was, locally, regionally, it's a lot easier to get a gig than it is on the coast or in Sydney. And I think I just was talking to a fella at one of the pubs in Narrabri, and it's like, oh, you could come play on Friday night. I was like, oh, sure. And I didn't have a PA, I didn't have a microphone, I didn't have anything. I had to borrow stuff off a friend, and it was a train wreck. I didn't know that you didn't have to play every song that you knew. But I did that over and 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 over again. People liked my original songs when I was playing them. And then I went in a couple of talent competitions locally, which kind of got me a bit of recording experience, which was really cool. I went over to a studio in Tamworth and did a very kind of primitive early recording. And then I went a step up and did like a Maury Superstar competition. It's just like a bigger talent show, I guess, and got a scholarship to the Academy of Country Music. And I knew that when I was going to do that I wouldn't want to do my job anymore, like my business, and I would only want to do that. And I'm glad I had that foresight. So I just said, boots and all, let's jump in and see what happens. And I'm still going.
You certainly are. Are there things you learned running that business, though, which you think have helped you running the small business of being an independent artist, basically?
100%. Graphic design skills, website skills, social media skills. Still hadn't worked out the money cash flow thing back then, because it was a lot. Because I'd burnt myself out, essentially. I was working 7 days a week, and it was very busy. And I was also gigging as well. So I'd gig, like in Inverell, which is like 3 hours away, finish there at midnight, drive home, and then start at 5 the next day. And it was easy. I was a bit younger too, so it was a bit easier. But yeah, all just was kind of come to a head, and I was like, right, I need to change something here. What am I going to change? And decided to jump into the unknown. My husband also has his own business. So I was also involved in that, because I'd come from a family where you work a job, no one had their own businesses. It was all very new, but that's definitely helped for sure.
Yeah. You talking about driving 3 hours back from Inverell made me think, yes, it possibly is easier to get gigs where you live, but the flip side is that you do have to go quite a way for them.
Oh, it is. I have done so much driving, It would be like, I play a lot. So a lot of the places I've played, because you can't, obviously in small towns, and even like, in Sydney and those kind of places, you can't play the same places all the time. There's just not the gigs available. So I would drive, I think once I played in Tenterfield one night and Dubbo the next night. And I remember Googling how far it was. And I was like, no, that's doable. If I get up at 7, because I'm a pretty early riser, I'll pick it up at 7. And if I drive, I could be there by then. And that's kind of, once I'd moved into touring, like I was then doing little tours and stuff. And we did a run of shows on my Central Australia tour. My husband came and we were going to do that. And I did a 5-day stint that started in Alice Springs. No, it started in Tennant Creek, and ended up in Townsville in 5 days. There was a lot of driving.
That is a lot of driving, and some interesting countryside to be driving through, like very changeable.
Very.
Who knows what the roads might be like at any given time.
Very, yes.
But I was looking at your upcoming shows, and you playing Corindai and Gunnedah, and Corindai's not that close either, really. Gunnedah's a bit closer to you, but
yeah, it's funny too, because Corindai to me is pretty local, but it's like, I don't know, it's still over an hour away. So it's still logistically, like, I've obviously got things I've got to do on Friday, and it's going to be Friday night, and I've got, things I've got to do to kind of get there. But in the scheme of Sarah Leete's gigs and the things that I've pulled off, it's walk in the park.
Yeah, so I suppose you wouldn't replicate the Tennant Creek to Townsville stint again, because I'm, in organising.
Totally. It's easy with help. I think it's also the shows that I'm moving towards now with this new music. I'm looking to do a lot more like, solely original stuff with a few covers here and there, whereas they were cover shows and they were like 3 to 4 hours, my own stuff, and I was still selling CDs and stuff on the road, but mostly covers, drunk people. it was brutal, but it definitely can be done. And you see a lot of the touring acts, successful touring acts now, like Fanny Lumsden, all she does is drive.
Yes.
Because you just have to make it work and to kind of keep yourself going.
Yeah, well, that's right. In this country, there is no substitute for just getting in the car and going. And Slim and Joy did it for a long time. And back in the day when there wasn't Google Map to help them. So, so during the recording of your EP in 2017, for which you had Catherine Britt as your producer, I'm wondering if there's anything you learnt during that experience, either good or bad, that you would not want to do with future recordings or would want to do with future recordings.
Definitely. I was very lucky with that recording that, again, I had kind of left the academy in early 2016, and then I applied for a young regional artist scholarship with, it's Create New South Wales now, but back then it was Arts New South Wales. And I got $10,000 to kind of have a crack at my first thing. And I really appreciated learning on someone else's dime, to be honest, because this is a very interesting business and I'm still learning how to do it, to kind of manage and balance income and expenditures. And it was, the process was really, really fun. Obviously, having someone like Catherine on board with her wealth of knowledge and experience was so fun to learn. I actually, Michael Moko helped out on that too. I would say he co-produced it. So he's now my producer. And I'd met so many. It was a really kind of great step into the industry. And then the things that followed, like I did a film clip with the Filmery and could release my own music and stuff. I think the biggest drawback for me was financially just ran out of steam. Just didn't have, kind of spent it all, I still think, in the right places, but I didn't have the money backing me up to continue. And you notice, if you're not an artist, if you're a music lover, you'll notice that the people that you kind of follow and the musicians that you like are, releasing singles kind of every few months, and releasing an album and touring the album. Like, it's genuinely a tightrope of, can I make this work? Can I not? So that was the negative I learned the most from, I think, for sure.
Yeah. And also balancing the energy, I would imagine, between creating, recording, and then the very practical things of getting on the road, organizing tours, booking that time. The rhythms of those things don't necessarily work together. Some things are very stop-start, but to be in a creative flow, you need a certain amount of time and space.
Definitely. And I'm very lucky that I have a pretty good grasp on both. And obviously too, with your first project, so I'd had those songs, some of those songs were probably 4 years old, 5 years old before they were recorded. It's the second time round that's hard, because you're, writing songs, trying to find time to write songs whilst touring your music or releasing your music with all this kind of strategy and social media and, publicity and all this kind of stuff. It's hard to find the time to be creative. But I think, like a lot of people, the biggest blessing, weirdly, was COVID. Right. I really just got time to stop, because I couldn't do anything. And I was lucky enough to get JobKeeper, so I had some money when that was around. And I, for a couple of weeks, I was just like, like a fish floundering on a bank, like trying to pretend I didn't get caught. But then it's like, right, no, this is everyone. Like, this is everyone. It's not just emerging artists. It's full-blown career musicians have just lost everything, and there's nothing we can do. So what can I do? And I know a lot of people, wrote, and I was one of those people who kind of took the time out and wrote some songs. There was a lot of other people who just couldn't do it and spent their time differently. I don't think there's a better way. I think everyone just dealt with it the way they did. But yeah, I was lucky enough to walk away with some songs anyway.
And they're very, very good songs, so we're lucky too. In the wake of that EP, what might have been a couple of years later, you started doing Write Like a Girl evenings organised with Hayley Marston, who's a Queensland artist, which was a great concept. Is that brand, for lack of a better term, continuing?
For sure. We had a full roster of stuff to bring to the January Country Music Festival in Tamworth, and unfortunately that got cancelled and we weren't able to reschedule because they tried to get 10 days into 7, right. And we were just one of the gigs that didn't happen. But in saying that, we do have plans to try and take it on the road, possibly. I know that Hayley was trying to do some shows up in Queensland, but we were just really just trying to push on with something that just wasn't going to work with the border restrictions and capacities and all the changing rules of COVID. But maybe this year.
Well, that'd be exciting. Maybe you even get to Western Australia. Who knows? Now, as you mentioned, you did some writing. You have now released some singles. So last year it was The One That Got Away and Nothin Special. I love them both. I've got to say Nothin Special is my particular obsession. I just keep listening to it. There's something about it. But they're also like parallel universe love songs. Part of what I really liked about them was that it came at the sort of the love song trope from a different angle. So The One That Got Away is about, you see that title and think, okay, we know what that's about. But the protagonist is actually saying, I'm glad that I'm your one that got away. And then in Nothin Special, the protagonist is saying, well, I know you're nothing special, but I can't stop thinking about you. And that's a really interesting take as well. So I'm wondering how those ideas were sparked and whether those songs came to you like that, or whether you actually had an idea for a love song and then found a different way to come at it, if that makes sense.
Great questions. So Nothin Special, like I also freaking love that song. And I know it's a little weird to say when you write it and you play it and all that kind of stuff, but the thing I love about it is that I underestimated it a lot. Like I knew it had really good melody, it was very simple, but I just thought it was way too simple, honestly. Like in terms of the lyrics, I write normally quite simple, but it was very to the point. And I think it was born, if I'm correct, I have like, I think most kind of songwriters do, like a little folder on my phone. And if I kind of get, words or phrases or melodies or whatever, like I just whack them all in there. And then when COVID had hit, I am a very struck by inspiration and will write that kind of way songwriter. Whereas COVID, I was like, I'm going to lock myself in this room and I'm going to write every day. And if it's crap, it's crap. And if it's good, it's good. And I'm just going to try and hone my craft and really kind of find my voice. I think Nothin Special was maybe just like a phrase on my phone. I thought it was hilarious because it's spelt how I speak, like Nothin Special. And I think it's also an interesting title. Like there's a lot of song titles out there. One That Got Away is a great example. But yeah, I really liked that song. And when we took it to the studio, I kind of had taken it to Moko and said, look, I've got this, like I like the drum intro thing on these few songs, and here's some songs, and do you think we could come up with something like that? And it just worked really, really well. Whereas One That Got Away was written pretty much, I think, straight after I'd seen like an ex-boyfriend of mine on Facebook. You know, like the people that you don't speak to, but you still have them in your friends list or whatever, and you still see what they're having for breakfast and what they're doing in their little life circumstances. There's this photo of him with, like his new girlfriend, and then they got engaged, and she posted like a cute little picture of the ring and stuff, and they're super happy. I'm obviously happily married, and I was just genuinely grateful that he'd found someone for him and that I'd had someone. So yeah, and I can't remember how the title came around. I think I'd just written the song and it was just there, and I was like, oh yeah, makes sense.
And the way you sung them both as well is distinctive to them. So Nothin Special, part of what I love about it is you could almost hear you laughing at yourself in a way, as you like, there's this tone to it that's always like, I can't believe I'm saying this. I can't believe I'm saying that I'm thinking about you because you're nothing special. And so that, and then in The One That Got Away, there's this sincerity, like, as you said, you're genuinely happy, and you can hear that in the way you've sung it. So when you came to record those, was there a moment of getting into character almost?
Funny you should mention that too. It's almost like you were there. I'd had 4 singles that I had kind of bring to the table, I guess, to record. And I'd gone through and done the vocals for all of them. And One That Got Away was the last one. And it was the song I was the most excited about to bring to recording. And it was also the one I'd written the most recent. I think it was maybe written in like July or August in 2020, and I recorded in August, so it was very new. And once I'd done my vocals for the other ones, and they were okay. Well, they're probably good, but once I'd done this song, Moko was like, we need to redo the rest of them. Your voice in that song was really, really good, and we need to redo them. And I remember him playing me back the versions. He like spent a couple of days kind of vocal comping or whatever it is, where he has to sit there and listen to my voice and chop and change all the bits and pieces. And I was like, nah, that's not me. Like, it's me and I can hear it, but like, I don't know what you've done to it. He's like, it's you. He's like, I'll play you a track that's not you, that's not comped or whatever, and you can hear for yourself. And I was like, okay, I don't. And I do think it's like, you know, most of that is being able to feel stuff and sing stuff that's true to you. And like a lot of the music I grew up listening to, you know, Cat Stevens, Neil Young, Paddy Griffin, like a lot of that stuff wasn't, you know, there wasn't a heap of stuff that happened to it. Some of it's live. Like one of my favorite songs is Needle and the Damage Done by Neil Young. And every time I listen to it, you're right in it. And then at the end, there's like an applause, and it's live, and I forget every time I listen to it. Right. So it's really special to me to be able to deliver something like that.
Yeah, and Nothin Special, I should add, is a semi-finalist in the international songwriting competition, which must be so gratifying.
So cool. I can miss out sometimes on, like, you know, it's easy to kind of get in your own head about radio charting and all these different things. But I really like that is about the song. And I really like that it's about like my ability to write a song. I'm very passionate about my songwriting ability and the fact that I write, you know, nearly exclusively by myself. So it's a real pat on the back, I think, to me, which is something I'm not very good at and something I don't do nearly as much. So to find that out was super exciting. And even if this is as far as it gets, I'm stoked.
As you should be. Now we should speak about your new single, Used, which actually has a darker tone to the two I've already mentioned. And you did say there were 4 recorded in that session, so I'm excited to hear there's probably another one coming. What is the inspiration behind Used?
Well, this one I can't be super honest about, but basically it's really self-explanatory, I think, and the way I've written it can make it super like relatable to a lot of different situations. So at first glance you would think it's another relationship song, which is funny, by the way, because I've been married now for 5 years this year, and none of them are love songs, they're all breakup songs. People are just like, your personal life must be terrible. No, I'm just creative. But yeah, I like to find inspiration in different kind of, you know, different ways. And this was just written about a very brief encounter from a blast from the past. And kind of when it was done, which is, I'll say that, not like in terms of, I'm not going to give too much away, but it was just really weird. And I was like, oh, I just can't help but get the feeling. Like that just felt icky. And not, you know, wasn't super negative, but yeah, it was funny, like how things kind of work out and what kind of comes from those things. So yeah, I think I had someone mention recently, like, oh, you know, it's definitely about an ex-boyfriend. Like, nope. Like, you know, I won't say too much, but yeah, I really liked, I loved that song leading into when we kind of recorded it. And I really liked that it doesn't have a chorus per se, like it has a hook, but not a chorus. And I like the, you know, like the syncopation of the lyrics. And I think like it's got some of my favorite lines I've ever written in it. And then when we recorded it, I really just wanted like that kind of early 2000s rocky kind of vibe. And Moko, again, just hits it out of the park every time. So I was very happy with how it turned out. And of course it had to be a single. So.
And again, vocally different. It sounds almost like you can feel your skin crawling as like you're singing it. And I didn't think it was a relationship song. I just thought it was Some Humans Are Awful song. But
for sure.
Yeah, but I did get that feeling of like, yeah, you can feel the ickiness around it. And your creativity, I mean, you mentioned then that you're not writing necessarily from life, you're being creative, and creativity does come from all sorts of places and it is about all sorts of things, but it can also take its hits, I guess. And you have had some hits in your life in recent times. You lost both of your parents fairly close together, and your dog, and as a dog person or any pet owner knows, like that is a devastating loss. That's not just, oh, that pet's gone. That's something that you think about forever. So I'm wondering, from a songwriting point of view, if you feel that grief has acted as a block or as a catalyst, and also from a singing point of view, because the voice is a physical thing, but it's also so tied up with all sorts of other things going on in life. Your voice technically might be fine, but it comes from a place that we can't really identify. So something like grief can really affect it. So I'm wondering how you found yourself as an artist navigating that extremely difficult time.
For sure. So you can't, like, I've kind of kept it a bit out of, like, I've shared it on social media. I don't, like, I don't talk about it a heap. But it's something that's just like, I was dealing with it I'm still dealing with it. Like a lot of, like I say, both my parents close together, came out of nowhere, like and I'm pretty young, like I'm, 31 this week. So it was, like a real big blow. And I remember I was writing songs pretty hardcore. They're all very depressing, as you can imagine. But I remember sharing one at a Tamworth songwriting kind of round thing that we did, not Write Like a Girl, it was another one I was a part of back in 2019, I think. And I played this song, stupid me, like I was already an emotional wreck. The Baan Baa hay runners had like driven past hay and I was already crying. So that should have been a sign, but it wasn't. Anyway, so I decided I'll share this song that I've just written about my dad who passed 3 months before. Anyway, I was like uncontrollably sobbing halfway through, like proper. But I also think it's super important. Like, obviously it's part of my story. It's made me who I am and a lot stronger. Did not choose it, like, but no one does. And I think it's still really important to talk about where it fits, in the landscape of radio and singles and all that kind of stuff I'm still trying to work out, because obviously it's really heavy, but I also think it's really important to share that story because it's going to happen to everyone, whether they like it or not. Losing a dog, wouldn't recommend it. No. She wasn't, like, she'd been part of my life. Like, my husband had her, she was 4 when I was in the picture, and she came with us everywhere. So that was a whole different kind of hard, because she, she is literally everywhere in the house every day. Spoke to my parents on the phone, spent a lot of time with them, like in the last few years and stuff. But yeah, that's just it. I'm hoping that bad things come in threes and I might get, maybe just a bit of relief. But it was very difficult too from a career point, because I'd kind of lost my dad leading into COVID or before COVID. And then I was like, right, I'm going to record some music and I'm going to, I'll gig this year in 2020 because it was going to be my year, really hardcore, and save up a heap of money and then go and record some songs. And then March 2020 came around, and again, it took me a couple of weeks to kind of get my head around it, going, well, I had no money before, definitely got no money now, but I have time and there's no pressure from myself mostly, but also from around, like, everyone's kind of, when I first come out with Nothin Special, there was a lot of kind of people asking in interviews because they just didn't know, like, oh, you've spent a little while away, what have you been up to? Like, oh, well, it hasn't been fun, but at the end of the day, like, here I am, still going, and I'm like more than happy to let that be part of my story and kind of shape who I am in my career.
I think here you are and still going is such an important thing to acknowledge, actually, because keeping on going is very, very difficult. I think even with one death, let alone that much grief in your life. And I know that it's always a day-by-day proposition, and that sometimes the momentum of getting up in the morning can help, but actually getting up in the morning can be hard.
Definitely. And again, I was weirdly. Very lucky that I had gone through, like, you know, I'd been through kind of depression before, you know, kind of 2015, 2016 kind of thing. And I had found myself a really good therapist, psychologist, and had opened myself up enough to kind of manage that. And I knew that when these, like, you know, my dad got sick and stuff, I was like, oh, I can see this turning into something not very fun, and this is something I should be proactive about. So I managed to, you know, have someone to talk to throughout the whole process. It was super easy. Went to my GP. It took me a little while to find the right psychologist, but I was really lucky. She's actually on the Central Coast, and because of COVID, telehealth, I just talked to her on the phone. It's like the best. So highly recommend it. You need to speak about it to get through it.
And part of what you said about your music is that you always want to be honest and relatable. And I think that's what you're proving here. I imagine, though, sometimes it is hard to be honest and relatable in your art when you feel like maybe you just want to hide behind someone else's story. So I guess that too is a daily commitment of getting up, putting one foot in front of the other.
Definitely. And it's like, you know, it's really hard to see, like, everyone's kind of got these really cool, fun party songs and, like, you know, all these different kind of things. With social media, it's super easy to just spend way too much time on there. Guilty. And kind of, you know, see what they're doing and what they're writing about. And I'm just like, oh, it feels weird to, and it's definitely a choice to, and I wouldn't say I'm very different, but it's definitely a choice, I think, to kind of hold your own space and write your own, you know, path, I guess, and release things that are a bit different but are true to yourself. And I feel I really kind of, you know, during COVID had evaluated what I wanted, I guess, out of this, because I think everyone wants the fame and the, you know, #1 singles and the festival lineups and stuff like that. But I've kind of come to realize, like, genuinely, if I can release and write songs that are my own and that I'm proud of, and if I can play them for a living and, again, manage the cash flow enough to kind of get that to where it needs to be. Like, I don't want to be doing anything else. This is what I want to do. So if I can do that, win.
Well, and we win too, because I know I keep saying I love these songs, but I do love your songs. And every time you put something out, I know it will be something intriguing, different, as you said. You're a wonderful singer, and these songs are such a joy. So thank you very much for making them. I look forward to whatever you're going to create next. And obviously people should keep an eye on your website, which you made, I think, and graphically wonderful. I was for any dates when you're touring. So I hope people go and have a look at that and catch you soon on the road.
Definitely, thank you. We've got we're fixing up our caravan right now, and we are going to jump in the van, and again, hopefully, like, everyone and everywhere is open, and we're just going to drive around and sing. When I say we, I mean I'll drive around and sing, and my husband will drink beer, but he's very fun to drink beer with if that's something you're interested in. Yeah, and just get out on the road and, yeah, share these songs with as many people as we can.
Fantastic. Well, hope to see you down the road. Thanks, Sarah.